And I had grown up on my grandfather's boat and watched Boston Harbor fill up with pleasure boats. I see Soniaville, Comeauville, Matagan River, all lobster boats, all fishing boats, draggers. And I started to say, what is this place? Where's the yachts? Where's the sailboats? None. And I started to fall in love right away. I was born in Winthrop, Massachusetts, a long time ago, 1942. What got me started was my mother's younger sister. And I was the oldest of my generation, and she was the youngest. So she was like a big sister as well as an aunt. When I was in grade school, 4th, 5th, maybe 6th grade, she was going to the Boston Museum School of Fine Art. And so I'd visit her in her studio in Boston. She took me to the museum, to the museums around Boston, which are very good. I was fascinated and transfixed right away. I want to know how they did that. I thought it was wonderful what was on the walls of the Museum of Fine Arts. And I was just a little kid, but I wanted to know. I thought it was kind of magic to be able to do that. She would transfer to me what she was getting at museum school. I drew all the time. I was good with a pencil. I was a natural draftsman. And then with her input, with my aunt's input, she gave me perspective, anatomy, all the stuff she was getting. I took to it very quickly. My grandfather had a 40-foot cabin cruiser, a beautiful, beautiful boat. It was sort of the family cottage. And he kept it in Winthrop, the town where I was born. And that was a big influence. I wanted to live on a boat right away. Everybody loved it, but I was fanatical, and that stayed with me forever. So when we moved to Newton, which was inland, that was a big mistake on my part, because it was moving away from the ocean and the boat. It was the 50s, and the cars and the value system in Newton was very, I don't know if bourgeois is the correct word, but everybody was money-oriented. The lifestyle didn't appeal to me. My father had a factory. They employed about 50 people manufacturing Venetian blinds, which was great. I liked the people there. I loved the factory. I didn't like the idea of working in an office the way Dad did. I loved working in the factory. But there was something about the golf, bridge, mahjong, social life of the adults and the way they dressed and the way they behaved that I rejected. I had a girlfriend in high school who went to this art appreciation class. My girlfriend said, "You should come." The teacher was very interesting. Her name was Helen Cabot Miles. And she'd show slides, art history stuff. And then we did drawing and painting. That was really quite good. There was a lot of art history and analysis. And she showed a Salvador Dali painting. I've been to the museum with my aunt, and I've seen Impressionism and all the old masters and modern art, but I hadn't seen Salvador Dali, which was old master technique, but bizarre subject matter. You could be an old master and yet have the impact that a Salvador Dali painting did, especially when you're young. And I thought I should do that. So I started thinking of it as a possibility of going to art school. From 62 to 66, I got a bachelor's degree at Massachusetts College of Art. I wanted to know how to paint like Leonardo da Vinci at that time. How did Leonardo da Vinci? Just tell me, how did he do it? There were drawing classes. There was anatomy, and there were life class where you draw the nude model. That was great. There was all the things that my aunt had given me, spent a lot more class time doing. And those classes were fine. Art history was good too. But they still didn't, there was something pervasive about 1962 to 1966 when I was at Mass College of Art. The teachers of the day were abstract expressionists. And then there was pop art and op art. All those things happened in those 4 years. And that's what you were supposed to do. At the time, everything I was told, I believed. I said, oh, okay, this is where it's going. There was an Andrew Wyeth show of sketches, watercolor, pencil, and dry brush, his studies for stuff. And it was spectacular. It was beautiful. And I really fell in love with that. It helped me in my drawing because I felt a similar sensibility. The way he used the pencil, the way he shaded, the way he used the line. So it was very encouraging and I was in love with Andrew Wyeth. And that was discouraged at Mass College of Art. To try to be Andrew Wyeth or to try to be like do what he was doing.
Because he represented an old style?
Yeah. The belief that I was getting from teachers and fellow students and the art world was that the most important thing you had to do in the 60s was discover a new novelty. You had to go forward or you were dead. It was nice to do Wyeth. If you want to go ahead, do a good job, but don't expect any sympathy from us because this is what art was about. The next step in the historical sequence. And he was going backwards. And I wanted to go backwards. And that's why Dali had been so important when I was even younger, because he had gone forwards he had taken the backwards forwards without losing the nature of the thing that I loved, which was rendering. The 4 years I was at Mass College of Art, a fellow classmate of mine, who we became good friends, the two of us wanted to be weightlifters. So we went down to the Y and we joined. So the 4 years I was at Mass College of Art, that's what got me through Mass Art, was going to the gym 3 days a week. And we were very serious in powerlifting contests and physique contests. The last thing I wanted to do. But I did it because of the coach. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. And I was Mr. New England for 4 years. And I held the record for the bench press in my weight class. In the locker room of the YMCA, I used to meet a guy regularly who was a very established Boston artist, still life painter, Robert Douglas Hunter. And I introduced myself to him. I knew who he was. He was the head of what they call the Boston School, which is what I'm a part of. It was going backwards. And he was very old-fashioned, and he was a great teacher. And he taught realistic still life painting. And I should have gone to him for 4 years. I have this passive personality. When I look back and I see how I did things, what I chose to do things, it was always offered to me. I didn't go looking for it. When you're in the junior year, you started applying to graduate schools. You started to get together a portfolio and a resume. And, well, if you got a master's degree, you could teach at university level, college level. So that's what all my painter classmates were doing. Okay. They were systematically applying to 24 schools. And I didn't understand how they were doing it, and I would ask, and I said, oh, okay, you do that, you do a resume, and you have slides of your work. I didn't want to show anybody my work. I was struggling to learn how to paint, but the drawings were okay. I applied to University of Massachusetts Art Department, one or two other places. That's all. Everybody else was applying to a dozen or more. It's systematically, they were disciplined. One day, junior year, standing at the easel, struggling, trying to figure out how to paint, the president of Mass College of Art, Robert Bertoli, nice guy, a really nice guy, he comes over to me and he hands me some papers and he said, listen, Penn State University Graduate School, you apply for an assistantship. Fill that out, I'll write them a letter too. Evidently that was his alma mater. So I did, I filled out the forms and I did the application, whatever it was, and I got it. So it was handed to me. So I taught undergrads. It was an assistantship. I was actually paid a bit of a stipend, and I didn't have to pay for my courses for the master's degree. I taught drawing, and God, I hated that place. Penn State University to me was hell. I had gotten to know Robert Douglas Hunter from the YMCA. When I finished at Penn State University, I called him up. Remember me? Well, here I'm back from Pennsylvania, another 2 years wasted. And he said, "Oh, good, come on up." He was in the studio, knocked on the door, he let me in, and he started to talk. He was very generous. He very matter-of-factly showed me how he painted. And I learned more in 45 minutes than I had just learned in 6 years, getting a master's degree, an undergrad and a graduate degree. And that was like lightning. It's like, what the hell just happened? He taught me his methodology, and it was how to paint. And I had never been shown how to paint. I met Maggie. We were going to go to Nova Scotia to see Maggie's folks. We got on the ferry at St. John, and it was foggy. It was early spring. My first glimpse of Nova Scotia. In the fog, I see these white shapes. They look like tree trunks or something. And as we got close, coming into Digby, there were waterfalls. It was spring, and the snow was melting. And they were running down the cliffs just outside the entrance to Digby Neck. Right away, it was love at first sight. I mean, these cliffs and these skinny waterfalls. The woods were coming alive. And then we drove down, and there was a space between all the houses. Big space. And big space between the little villages. There was nothing. There was woods and the ocean, a lack of population density. And I was home. And we ended up staying. I fell in love with Nova Scotia and didn't want to go away. So I was still trying to struggle with painting. Master's degree, an hour with Robert Douglas Hunter, but I still didn't know how to paint. I was still trying to figure it out. Maggie got a job. She worked at the newspaper. She worked at the Hebron Residential Center, troubled kids. And we got to know the boss socially. They saw that we both artists. So she said, my brother is a lawyer in Montreal, and he loves art. And he buys and sells paintings at Castel Gallery in Westmount in Montreal. Give us some photographs of your work. I'll send them to my brother, Seymour. He'll show them to Castel Gallery. See what they say. Maybe they'll want to see a painting. So I said, okay, I'll give you some photographs. We'll send Seymour some photographs. I didn't do anything for a year. I was in no hurry. Montreal, you might as well say the moon. A year went by, and Maggie's boss at the residential center kept saying, let's see some paintings. And another year went by. I still wasn't in a hurry. Finally, a friend of ours up in Clare, Jocelyn Comeau, she said, look, I'm going to Montreal to see Jean-Paul, her brother. She knew the story. And she said, I'll take a painting. You got a painting? I'll take it, and I'll look after it for you. I think I gave her 2 paintings. I wrapped them up, and she took them to Montreal, rendezvous with Seymour. Seymour now had the 2 paintings. The living painters that Castel had were all Quebec painters, and they were all established Quebec painters. They had a lot of big-time, high-priced paintings. Cornelius Krieghoff and others, A.Y. Jackson, the Group of 7. So here's this new painting from Nova Scotia. Nobody knew anything about. It was a Saturday morning, and in those days, the market in Montreal it was hot. They were selling paintings right and left so fast, prices are going up. Seymour walks in with one of my paintings on a Saturday morning. They had an opening, and when they had an opening, they served coffee and wine, and it was a big social event, and there were hundreds of people. It was a big gallery, 5 big rooms. So Seymour walks in, puts it down. The guys are running around putting red stickers on all the paintings. I found out later, a little group gathered around my painting. I was in my studio in Beaver River, Woodville, and the phone rings, and I'm depressed. He introduced himself. He said, I'm calling from Castel Gallery. Seymour Luderman has brought in a painting of yours. We don't know you. We don't know anything about you. There's a gentleman here interested in your painting. We might like to buy it. We don't have a price. We don't know what your paintings are worth. We don't know anything. So how much do you want for this painting? So I said $500, because I had sold that doctor from Illinois for $500, and I figured that must be my price. So he didn't like that. He said, well, the gentleman that is interested in the painting likes to buy unknown, inexpensive paintings on speculation. And he likes this painting, but he doesn't pay $500. I said $500. And I'm not a good businessman. I don't do that. And he said, he sounded angry. So I said, well, it's $500. I'm sorry. He said, well, let me talk to the fellow. 5 minutes later, the phone rings. Now he's all sweet, really total different mood. He said, the gentleman who's buying your painting would like to talk to you. He wants to ask you about the painting. He asked me about the eye level and why there's so much space over here and this and that, and I made up. But I can bullshit. I know how they talk. I don't know what I said, but he was happy. When I got a check in the mail for $500, a week or 2 later, Seymour brought in the other painting, and a week later I got another $500 check. That went for 20 years at Castel Gallery. He would send me checks, and I would send him the work. There was a daily flight to Halifax. So I'd take the box with 2 or 3 paintings, put them on the plane in Yarmouth Airport, and he'd have them the next morning. I never got over that impact when I was a kid of wanting to know how they did it. I'm just learning now. Every time I sit down here, I'm going through history, through when I first learned something. I keep learning all the time. A lot of these instances of learning something and learning to coalesced over time and become the way that I paint. And that's it. I have learned how to paint. Now I can't say I don't know how to paint, but I still have the same feeling. I still don't know how to paint. The growth doesn't stop. I do things totally different now than I did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I have no ambition. I did not want to be famous. I just wanted to know how to paint like Leonardo da Vinci. Simple as that. I didn't want to sell them or be famous for them. I just wanted to do it, be able to do it. That's all, for me. If someone wanted to buy it, well, that would be great. But it had to come from me.